Welcome to everybody to Webinar Wednesday at BALPPA. I think we're officially past the point where I'll say Happy New Year, but hello to everybody I haven't seen in the last 2 or 3 weeks. And very kindly, VisiSoft have popped up their front screen so we can see what we've got this morning. And with no further ado, I'm going to hand over to Rachel, but first, initially, over to Phil. So over to you. Good morning, Phil.
Good morning. I probably haven't met everyone, so I can probably say Happy New Year, I guess, can't I? Because I haven't done that bit. So Happy New Year. Thanks for joining us this morning. As the name on the screen suggests, we're going to talk today about really online marketing, and in particular, making sure we can get the most ticket sales from our websites as they exist right now, which for me is all about something we call online customer journey. So taking people from the beginning of when they first hear about you all the way through to booking their ticket. So it's that bit that happens before they arrive at your attraction for their fantastic day out, and it's all about making sure we get that process correct and ultimately, like I say, maximize the ticket sales and maximize the opportunity that we've got with those potential customers. So you may have heard of VisiSoft. Just to give you a very quick intro and bit of context. So VisiSoft is a product of a company called the HBP Group. So that's where I work. VisiSoft was launched from when we developed our first EPOS system in the early 2000s. Our background was always around accounting software, so it was developed as an accounts integrated EPOS system initially, and then from there it's kind of grown and really kind of specialized in the tourist attraction industry to the point now where we do online ticketing, EPOS systems, stock control systems, everything that surrounds that, and of course all linked back to accounts integration. So we're big believers in data, of making sure that everything links together, and therefore things like online ticketing and marketing, which can be very data driven, is right up our street as a business. And the reason why I'm here really is my background is in online marketing. So it's one of my first specialisms when I kind of finished studying, and I went straight into online marketing. I kind of turned up into the world of marketing at the right time, where Google had kind of launched its platforms, its advertising platform, and I got into that very early, and that's taken me down a path now of 15 to 20 years of online marketing. I think as well, it's probably important to point out, I've got a family, wife and 2 kids. We go to tourist attractions a lot. Everything we do really on a holiday is focused around tourist attractions. Weekends are generally taken up locally of going to places, and we have weekends away and go. So I'm a big online shopper as well, so I always book pre-tickets. Forget COVID, I was one of the small percentage before pre-booking tickets before that all happened. And the biggest flaw, but also my biggest strength when it comes to marketing, is my ridiculously short attention span. So if I come across a website I don't like, I've left it before I've even noticed that I've done that deliberately, which makes me go back quite often and go, well, why have I just done that? Why did that not work? So I hope that I'm in a good position to look at this space and say what works well, what can be improved. And what I've tried to do today is take some really positive bits from different websites that I've seen in the industry and show that. So we're not going to focus really heavily on any negatives, what anyone's doing wrong. What we want to do is pull out the really good bits and look at where we can improve things. So I suppose the first question is, why should we really care about an online customer journey? If you think from most attractions perspective, customer journeys have started when people turn up at the door, and customer experience has been dictated by what a fantastic day out they have at that attraction. Websites have typically been a supporting feature to that, maybe giving some information in advance. And as long as that website wasn't completely disastrous, it's not really going to have a massive impact on the customer journey from start to finish. But I think we can probably all agree now the world has changed over the last couple of years, and that more people than ever are using online booking systems and booking their tickets in advance. And I've got some statistics from some of our customers that show just how much of a shift that looks like it is across the industry. So we have now moved to a world where pre-booking is a significant part of the journey. I think it's important to point out that customers have generally accepted that. We've had this forced upon us. It wasn't everyone here's decision that we would suddenly all move to a pre-booking model. It was really dictated upon us, and customers have accepted that. And that comes with some really, really good benefits from us. So the first one, which may be going away, and hopefully it will slowly go away, is obviously the capacity management requirements. We had to do this, so pre-booking is massively going to help with that, so that we don't get turned away. And just before everyone was joined, I was mentioning that when I went away with the family recently, we didn't pre-book, we turned up some places and I did get turned away. It's quite a bad experience to get that. So customers in general, other than that weekend where I forgot, are pre-booking, and therefore it's not impacting that customer experience. It's helping attractions plan, not just from staffing levels, but from stock levels, from planning things like additional kiosks being required or closing certain kiosks or outlets that might not be needed if numbers are down. So it's really helping us to plan and to structure things around what's going on. And finally, a really interesting one from speaking to some of our customers is actually about finding out how customers behave when there are less people in the park compared to more. So I've had a couple of people give me this similar kind of anecdote where they found out that with reduced numbers in their park, their revenue went up. So their average spend per head was significantly higher. They also found anecdotally the customer experience was better at that stage as well. There's less people in the park, people around to move around more freely, and as a result spent more in the cafe, more in the restaurants, more in the gift shop because they'd had a better day out. So this gives us some excellent opportunity now to look at things that we would never have necessarily had an option to look at before, because if someone would have suggested reducing capacity by 40% to see what happened, that probably would have been a no before COVID, but this is where it's got us at the moment. So there's some real positives of this which we can embrace. And just to show you kind of the swings from talking to a few of our customers, this particular one, 30% beforehand for pre-booked online tickets, now up to 75%. And that was with incentivization as well. So this particular customer realized that there were huge benefits of knowing who was coming in, so actually incentivized it online. Believe it or not, they're not incentivizing it online anymore, and they've got still a lot more going through that platform. This particular customer, 30 to 40%, now up to 98%. Now I have spoke to them since, and that's dropped back a bit now to about 90%, but still incredibly high. And it may still drop off, obviously, going forward, but we don't know exactly where it's settled, but it will certainly be higher than 30 and 40%. And the final one, most days, 100% pre-booked. Occasionally on quiet days, a few walk-ins, around 2%. So a massive, massive change. And you'll all have your own figures. They may be similar to this. They may not quite be as extreme. But one thing that is absolutely clear is that things have changed, and that the way that people are buying tickets from us has changed. So with such a radical change in that customer behaviour, which has been driven by something that obviously was out of our control, there is a great chance to embrace it. And we're going to talk about the basics today, really, the basics of marketing, of how we make sure that we can take advantage of this opportunity that's put itself in front of us. But I do think it is a huge opportunity to review what you've got on your websites and ultimately improve that online customer journey to maximize the opportunity here. So what I want to start with is something that anyone that works with me, a few of my colleagues will be on here and will have seen this multiple times because I talk about it a lot, is the Buyin File. So sometimes referred to as IDA. Sometimes these names can be adapted from awareness, interest, decision, and action. But it's an absolutely vital funnel to understand when we're talking about selling to customers, or probably better put, customers buying from us. So these are the processes that any of us go through before we buy something. So the first one's fairly obvious: awareness. Before we buy anything, we have to be aware of it. Now, the way this normally happens in the attractions industry is through research. So quite often referred to this as the researching phase, where we go off and we start looking for places. So to give you my example, if I was going to go away to North Yorkshire for a weekend, then I'd be online looking for attractions in North Yorkshire that I can go with the family. And I might use a variety of different things to find that. I might be on TripAdvisor, I might be on Google, I might be on various different websites, or I might have some recommendations that have come to me, or places that I've been to before that I go on and have a look at again. So the most important part of awareness is being in the right place, of course, whether that's Google, whether that's one of the websites that you need to be listed on, or if you're attracting local clientele, then making sure that you've got a good name in your local area, for example, so people can go on and find your website straight away. The second part is then obviously to drive people down this funnel. So all of this stage, we're trying to get people down a level each and every time. So once people are aware of us, we need to start showing them what type of attraction we are, with good descriptions, good imagery, etc. So the interest phase is quite often what I refer to as the dreaming phase. So this isn't the detailed planning of what we're going to do. This is me looking at the pictures of the attraction, looking at the videos that are on the site and thinking, oh yeah, kids will like going there. That looks like a nice picnic area. We can take a picnic, or they've got a restaurant I can go to. And me understanding exactly how this is going to work. And if it's a place that I'd like to go and to take the family in my case. So the important part here is all about being really clear on the benefits. And the benefits can be shown so well in the attractions industry with imagery, with exciting text, with video, with maps of the attraction, for example, to show me exactly what I'm looking at and how much fun ultimately it's going to be. And in my experience, this is where most attractions do a brilliant job. So most attractions have got a fantastic website when it comes to showing off their passion and their attraction and exactly why it is where people would visit. After that, in my experience, things get less, if you like, a little bit more mixed in the industry when it comes to websites. And some people are really good and some people have got areas to improve. And this is where what we call decision phase or the planning. So this is the detail. This is the what's the price, and might be your part, but I'm sure if it's not your attraction, your part, then you've been to other places where the ticket pricing structure is just incredibly confusing. There are multiple tickets all over the place and it can be an absolute nightmare. So it can be a real tricky one to understand exactly what I'm buying. When's it open? What's the parking like? Are there local travel options? What are the food menus? All of that sort of stuff. The things that I will be planning before I go to an attraction to make sure I know exactly what's happening and that it's all going to fit in. It's in my price range, the dates fit, all of that sort of stuff. And then the final one, the action, which in this scenario is booking of the ticket. Now, this is an absolutely critical phase and not one that's got to be, not one that can be taken for granted. So this is your shopping cart process from someone clicking book a ticket to going through that process and ultimately checking out at the end of it. And we're going to cover this in some more detail, but it's one of the biggest areas where people can drop out of this funnel. And it's one that gets very, very little thought as well. So hopefully you can see from this that as consumers, if you think about this, we are completely in control. Use this example when you buy a car and you'll realize that actually the olden days of going to a car garage and having someone sell you a car are long gone. We do all of this process online. We look at cars that we're obviously aware of, we get advertised at, we go and check them out, we watch videos, we read reviews, we look at specifications, and ultimately you pretty much make a decision before you've spoken to a human being before. So as buyers, we are in complete control. So the chances are this funnel is happening on your website potentially right now. I'm sure it will happen at some point today. People on your website going through this process and deciding whether or not they are going to buy a ticket from you. So I think the first question to ask yourself is, are you in control of that funnel? Have you ever considered it as a sales tool? Because it's probably your biggest one right now. It's like I say, if your statistics are anything like the ones that I've shown on screen from some of the customers that we work with, then it's a massive part of your sales process at the moment. So if this hasn't dawned on you already, if you're selling that many tickets online, you are basically an e-commerce business, or a big part of your sales process and your business is now online. You are an e-commerce business. You are selling tickets online. Now, could argue if you're not at the 75%, you're more 50-50, and this is part of your business, but it's certainly an important part of your business at the very least. And chances are, like I say, from who I've spoke to, it's a big part of your business. So if you haven't already thought about it this way, then you need to start thinking about it that way. You need to let that sink in. The customer journey is now starting online. I can talk from experience when I've been on websites that are poor, that I've left, and I'll probably never go back to. I'll never go back to that attraction because of the website experience. I've been to places that are very difficult to book, and I've thought to myself after I've been, I think, oh, it wasn't worth the bother. So this is absolutely impacting people. It's certainly impacting me, and the statistics back that up, that the online journey is key to overall customer satisfaction. So what I'd like to do now is talk about what can we do about that. So how can we make a great online experience? I know you've all got websites already, so we're not going to start talking about the basics of designing a simple website. Everyone I've been to nowadays has a decent website as an absolute minimum. So what we're talking about here is fine-tuning things and improving things so that we can maximize those online ticket sales. Any website nowadays, if you chuck it up and you chuck some traffic at it, you chuck some visitors towards it, generally will convert. It will sell something, and it will make some sales one way or another. The trick in marketing is about maximizing the amount of people that buy. So we talk about this in terms of conversion rate. If 100 people visit your website and one person buys, it's a 1% conversion rate. There is no commonality in terms of what we should be aiming for. There are statistics and different industries of what the averages are. I would always say, if you can, and if you're working with a web company who can track that sort of figure, find out what it is and look to improve it. That is job number one. So if you're currently at 1%, see if you can get it to 2%, for example. Once you've got it there, keep going up. It absolutely depends, like I said, on industry, and it absolutely depends on, and when I say industry, I mean industry with sub-industry as well, location, all sorts of things come into it. But that is what we're looking to achieve. So I'm not going to go heavily into this first phase, which is awareness, which is about driving people to your website, ultimately getting people to understand who you are in the first place. There are two ways of maximizing ticket sales. One is get more people to your website, continuing converting at a 1% conversion rate. In my example, if we had 1,000 people a day come in before and we get 2,000 people, we double the amount of leads we get, obviously. Or we look at increasing the conversion rate itself, which is what I want to focus on. The reason I focus on that is if you get that bit right, the second part is a no-brainer, because now you're not doubling your customers, you're quadrupling your customers when you do that second phase. So getting this first bit right is absolutely key, and that's why we start there. So where I'm going to jump into is interest. So like I said, I like to think of this as this dreaming phase, this am I going to go there? Does it look fantastic? How much fun are we going to have? Are the kids going to love it? All that sort of stuff. I could have picked a lot of websites to give you an example of here, because a lot of people do this brilliantly, but seeing as they've just become one of our customers, and I thought I'd give them a little plug. Raw Dinosaur Adventure in Norfolk, really good example of this. Loads and loads of pictures, loads of professionally taken pictures as well that look fantastic. There's just 3 there, for example, but go on the site, loads of them. You can see every single different part of the park, multiple pictures for each one. You know exactly what you're going to get when you get there. There's a map that shows you obviously the size and the scale of it, the different things that go around with a key, descriptions of every one of those places. You know exactly what you're going to do for that day. You can plan your day from this website, no problem whatsoever. You know where the restaurants are, you know exactly what you've got. So from planning that day, you know instantly that it's going to be fantastic, basically. So like I say, Raw do a great job. Loads of people do a great job of this. This is the one bit you really can't criticize on most attractions websites. Do a brilliant job. So I'll nitpick ever so slightly on this one, because there is an area of improvement for everyone, and that's video. Very few people are utilizing video well on their websites, in my opinion. So Raw actually have a video just shy of a minute long at the bottom of their homepage. It's a really nice video right at the bottom of the homepage. Most people are going to miss it. We're on 2020 statistics still at the moment, because most 2021 statistics haven't come out yet, because we're too early in 2022. So I wouldn't fully expect this has gone up again in 2021. YouTube has certainly grown over that time, so we would expect it's gone up in 2021. More people are using video, and it's such a fantastic industry to be using video during. We are talking visual, we're talking excitement, we're talking fun. This should be used more and more across websites, in my opinion. It doesn't have to cost the earth. I mean, we use, in our business, we use a local freelance video guy who's fantastic, brilliant job for us. There are lots of people nowadays that can do video editing and filming for you. If you've got an existing agency that you work with, I'm sure they'll have an option for you as well. So this doesn't have to cost the earth, but it can do so much in terms of that dreaming stage of showing people what a fantastic place it is to come. So don't underestimate into how strong it is. And I believe you should be more confident in terms of using it higher up on your website as well, and getting into prime positions on your website. I think it could really help. Jumping slightly ahead as well, I think there is an opportunity for video in the next phase, which is the interest phase or the planning phase. So I'll just jump ahead slightly, because I only found one. I'm sure that there may be more examples of this, but Orton Towers do this quite well, in that they actually use video to explain things in detail in the planning phase. So this is actually an accessibility video about people with specific requirements that come to the park, that explains it and visually shows exactly what's going on. If that was written down in text, it would be very long. It would be a long old page of information, and it would be a lot to take in. In video format, I think it's a couple of minutes long tops, really engaging, shows exactly kind of the information that you need. It could be used more throughout websites, in my opinion, as well. Appreciate you have to take the first step if you're not using video, and maybe do the first stage, but this is definitely an option as well. Video is not going to go away. 2 reasons for that. YouTube is just growing and growing and growing and becoming more accessible for web designers and people to use. And 2, mobile. So mobile usage has grown and grown and grown, and the statistics have always backed up that video gets viewed more on mobile. So if mobile usage increases, then of course video increases with that as well. So to move fully onto that phase then of the decision phase or the planning phase, this is where I want my detail. So some customers will care about this more than others, but everyone will have some information they want to know before they come. Might be the sat-nav postcode, make sure that that's nice and clear. Might be the parking details. It might be dietary requirements at the cafes and restaurants that you've got, so that I know that my awkward son and my vegetarian daughter are going to be catered for when we turn up. Or maybe I want to bring a picnic because it's the middle of summer and I need to know if there's somewhere, if I'm allowed to do that, and if there's somewhere to sit when I do. These are all going to be quite personal, but in some respects it needs to be as an exhaustive list as possible. Again, on most websites this is there. My biggest criticism is that it's very hard to navigate through. So most websites have an FAQs page, a pricing page, an opening times page, a restaurants page, parking page, accessibility page. I have to click on multiple things to get to all of these places. Now, I probably don't want all of the detail on all of these things. What I want is the basic detail and the option to click through. And someone that does this really well is Beamish Museum. So the Beamish Museum website has a fantastic overview page called Plan Your Visit that has the basics of everything. And in certain areas, they then have click-throughs for more information. So for me, with my nice short attention span that wants to see everything in one place, I see my pricing, I see my opening hours, I see the parking, I see the sat-nav address, phone number there, all the stuff I want, easy to use and easy to then navigate through further. So when it talks about the restaurants, and we have X amount of restaurants and cafes on site, click here for the menu. I can go through there, I can see full menus, I can see pictures of food. If you don't guess, my kids are awkward and I like my food, so I always go there first wherever I'm going to make sure that we're going to get well fed. But whatever it is that matters to that person, it has to be easy to navigate to, easy to get to. And as you see, with each one of these things, we're stopping people dropping out of our funnel. We're making it interest for them. We're giving the details they want. So they're excited about the park, or the attraction, sorry. They know exactly where they're going to go, where they're going to eat, where they're going to park, all of that sort of stuff. We're not giving them any reasons to drop out. Every time we don't give this information or we don't keep them in this funnel, then we've got a lost customer, and that's where our conversion rates are going to start dropping. And then the final one, this is the actions. This is where ultimately they make the purchase. So this is the booking phase, really, your shopping cart process. And of course, it's the final and arguably the most important stage, because if they do fall out at this stage, you've done all of that work and got everything right, and then dropped out. And believe me, I've dropped out at this stage, not just in the attractions world, but in many e-commerce sectors. And that dropout at this stage is known as shopping cart abandonment. So when someone gets all the way through, puts something in their shopping cart and then leaves. And the statistics of this are pretty horrific in e-commerce. So this is, again, we're on 2020 data. All sectors, 81% shopping cart abandonment rate, average shopping cart abandonment rate. Hard to work out exactly where the attraction market fit, but you would assume in travel, 87%. So that means after all that work, even if we take some of the best figures on that chart there, 75% of people are dropping out at that stage. That means there's something fundamentally wrong with shopping cart processes in general. Why do people do that? Here are some of the reasons. There are various different percentages assigned to these, but these are often the sort of reasons you'll give. Unexpected shipping costs. I think In the attraction industry, we just take out the word shipping there and say unexpected costs. We don't want booking fees. We don't want complicated pricing structures. We want things to be simple and nice and easy to understand as consumers. I understand why people have complicated pricing structures from a business point of view, but flip it and think about it from a consumer point of view. Why does it need to be that complicated for me? Had to create an account. Again, if I'm going potentially to that place once, I'm on holiday, I don't want to have to put in loads of detail. It gives me a reason to not fill that in. So can I check out as a guest? Is there a simple way to get my information in? PayPal, Apple Pay, Google Pay, all of these things that can automatically pull information in so I don't have to sit there and type in details because I'm lazy and I've got a short attention span. Conducting research on the blue bar, maybe not something we can do with that. And actually, you could argue that some people's research involves going all the way through the process just to see that there aren't any hidden costs and I don't have to create an account and all that. So we can't do much about that one. But payment security concerns, hopefully people are more switched on with this nowadays of making sure that their websites are secure, that they've got the padlock accordingly on top of the website, that they explain what payment processes they use, what payment process they accept, so it's nice and clear for people. But if you aren't doing that, make sure that isn't a reason for people to drop out. Confusing checkout. It's very hard to give examples of what a nice checkout is because without showing you a really bad one, but there are bad ones. And I'll come on to how you identify whether or not you've got a bad one, but ultimately it involves checking it and watching someone else use your checkout to make sure that it's simple and straightforward, because it really should be. And finally, coupon codes, which may apply to you, may not. If you are using coupon codes and there's a reason behind it and you want people to have a discount code and get in there, then don't hide it away, make it clear. Because if you give someone a coupon code and then they can't use it, they're not going to check out. So you're kind of defeating the point in that respect. So these are some of the reasons that people drop out. And this is such a vital stage. It normally gets absolutely zero attention when it comes to web designers and web design. And I have a bit of a love-hate relationship with web designers. I do like things to look nice and work well, but functionality is key. And quite often a pretty picture on the front of the website is not the right thing to have on the front of the website. The right thing is to have a button that says book your tickets here, or find out the details of the park, or look at all the attractions, all that sort of stuff. It's functionality over design. And that is one of the reasons why this gets missed out. You buy an e-commerce platform or a booking platform and no one designs the shopping cart process. And it's so, so vital. And to give you the best example of that is Amazon. So I assume you've all shopped at Amazon, and I assume you've all bought from Amazon as well, because they're obviously the biggest e-commerce platform in the world. And the reason they are is because they have the best shopping cart process in the world, to the point where they have dictated how everyone else runs their shopping carts. Now, we can only aspire to what someone like Amazon is capable of doing because of Prime subscriptions, because of two-click checkouts, the fact that I am basically always logged into Amazon, so I don't even have to put in my details. If I'm on my phone, I have to do a swipe and a click, or click and a swipe, whichever way around it is, and I've bought something. If I'm on the website, I think it's about 3 or 4 clicks to buy something maximum. So really, really straightforward shopping process that we are really going to struggle to replicate because of that logged in process. But what we can do is try and replicate what they are aiming for, which is the minimum amount of clicks, the minimum amount of interaction to go from effectively the awareness to the action stage. So from knowing what I've looked for in this scenario in Echo Show, it could be anything on Amazon. Look for a toaster and I search toaster, the minimum amount of clicks to get from clicking on a product to buying that product. Now, I believe that number that you should be aiming for is 10. From looking at all the websites that I've looked at, very few fall under 10. I think it is a more than achievable process to think, can someone go from clicking book tickets on my website to checking out within 10 clicks? That's what we should be aiming for. Like I say, Amazon has it down to 2 on a mobile, and I think it's 4 on desktop, although it does change depending on if you've got external sellers on there and things like that. So 2 and 4, we're not going to get there, but we can get to 10, and it's a more than acceptable number of clicks to go somewhere. So why is it so good on Amazon? Well, firstly, I don't really have to go anywhere. we look at the information that's on that page. This is how they get it down so small. I know the price, I know the availability, I know when it's going to be shipped to me, I've got reviews, I've got information, I've got multiple pictures on the left-hand side where I can click through. So as a lazy consumer, which the vast majority of people are, this is where Amazon has really, really excelled. It's given us everything we need. When I say they've dictated how other people act, this has dictated positions of things on websites. So if you go onto most e-commerce websites, the picture will be on the left of the screen and the buy button will be on the right or the lower right of the screen. So they've even dictated where we're clicking. And if I were to scroll down this page, I'm sure most of you will be able to tell me with some level of accuracy the sections of the website as we go down. And if I wanted to see all the detailed reviews, you'd know we had to scroll all the way to the bottom of that page to see those, for example. So these are a great one to model yourself on and to almost assess and understand how are they so successful. And I'm a big believer in coming out of your own industry and looking at what other people are doing, not just looking what the best attractions are doing, looking at what the best e-commerce websites are doing and how can we replicate that. So I can find these things easy, I can understand these things easy, I can buy these things easy. The reason I've got a short attention span, the reason I expect a lot from every single website I go on is Amazon's fault. So blame Amazon because they do it so well. They change my expectation of every website. So this is where we need to start thinking about our own checkout processes in terms of how easy is it to buy? How many clicks does it take? It's an easy thing for you to do, go and check, start at the beginning, end at the end and see how many times you have to click. Is it any different if I have to buy something more complex as well, such as a membership? What about if I want to buy a membership and a ticket in the same journey? So I want to become a member and I want to book my first day there as well. Are you going to make me do two separate different checkouts or can I do that in one, for example? So in the real world, I know I've gone away from Amazon. I've tried to do that thing of don't buy from the big companies, buy local, all of that. And I've never completely got there because I've always got to a stage going, is this free shipping? Is it actually in stock? Oh, I don't know where the information is. And I've gone and I've ended up somewhere else down a wormhole and probably ended up back at Amazon in the first place. So make sure we're there and we're covering all the space and aiming as closely as we can to Amazon. So just to give you an example of one that works really well. So first and foremost, it may sound like a stupid and simple one, but I mentioned about web designers. How quickly can I get to the ticketing page? So on the Tank Museum website, 3 different ways from the homepage. So whether I'm going into the menu, whether I'm looking at the homepage, whether I'm looking in the top right, where personally I would expect to see that link, 3 different ways where I can get to booking a ticket. So making it simple and easy. Like I say, it's not a big picture of a tank and all of that sort of stuff. It's giving me my options of where I want to go. So if I know that part well, I'm already aware of it, I'm already interested, I want to get straight to that phase where I want to book. Simple process with minimal clicks to get to the buying process. And this is really cool. This is really good. So one thing I think that very few people talk about, and this is what creates complex pricing structures often, is how do people want to buy? And the reason this isn't in there is because they let a web designer design their website and no one ever thinks about the consumer. So change your mindset and think, how does my customer book? So to give you an example, I will either be saying, right, what we're going to do this Saturday. So shall we book somewhere for this Saturday? And I'll be going on and wanting a very specific date of when I'm coming. Now, if I go somewhere and there happens to be the Easter Spectacular on that weekend, then fantastic, great, I'll book on that. The other one is I'll go to places because I know they do a great Easter weekend or an Easter 2 weeks or a Halloween thing or Santa's Grotto or any of that sort of thing. So I'll want to buy specific tickets for specific things. So you might have specific themed events, you might have exhibitions, you might have additional things that will mean that people want to come exclusively for those areas, or people want something for one specific day. Just by doing that thought process and giving someone the option early on, you can take 3 or 4 clicks out of the process because it stops them having to see lots of different things, add lots of different multiple tickets they didn't need there, scroll through lots of non-relevant information. So this is done really well. So if you want to check out how it's done, have a look at the Tank Museum website. That process works brilliantly. The other thing they do great, which I mentioned, I don't know if you can quite see this on screen, but this is me buying an annual pass and my ticket in one process. The beauty of this is it halves the amount of data entry I have to put in, because of course by putting in my email address, by putting in my address, all the things they need from me for this to happen, I don't have to do it twice. I don't have to go and buy a membership and then come back and buy a ticket with that membership, because I'm giving the information in one go. So again, I'm reducing not only the amount of clicks, but the second most important thing, which is data entry. So quite a lot of places will ask for a lot of information. I think the worst examples, I hope no one has this still because I haven't seen it for a while, is when I book the kids in and then they start asking me for the email address for the kids and the mobile numbers for the kids, because they're two standard forms that come when you add a person. My kids don't have mobile phones and email. Well, actually, they do have email addresses, but they just don't know what they are just yet for their logins and everything. But anyway, you don't need that information, so therefore I shouldn't have to only retype in my email address and my mobile number again just to skip those forms. So it's key that we cut down the data entry. We can't count it as clicks as such, but we can get rid of as much of it as we possibly can. Okay, so that's as far as I'm going to go in terms of the advice. So I suppose what I want to do now is give you a little bit of homework of what you can do next. So the first one is your website ticking all of those boxes at every stage of the journey? And also, what important, is it clear where they are? So if I want to see what attractions, what elements of the park there are, is there a map? Are there pictures? Is there something I can go and see? If I want the detail, is there a page where I can go and get that detail in a nice, easy to understand version? And also, is there an easy way to get to the ticket booking process? Is all of that information complete? Is it giving me everything I want? Like I say, if you're not using video, it's a great place to go. If your images aren't up to scratch, then you should improve them. If your descriptions aren't good enough, you should improve them. All of these things give someone a reason to drop out. Once you've got past that and we get into the phase of the detail, have you covered every eventuality? Have you covered things like accessibility, dietary requirements, all those little bits that might make someone drop out and think, oh, maybe we won't come. The second one is to count your clicks from start to finish. So from going to book a ticket, how many clicks does it take me to get through to buying? Now, we can exclude the bits at the end if there's any payment provider specific bits where people ask for verification of that. Just getting through, or as close to 10 as you possibly can, ideally under 10. Like I said earlier, if you're currently at 15 and you can get to 14 or 13, even that is a win. But can we reduce the amount of clicks? I think it was about 5-6 years ago, Boots were heavily criticised for their e-commerce process. It has changed completely now. I think, if I remember right, I can't remember if it was 27 or 28. It was 27 or 28 clicks to go from adding something into your basket to buying it, because of all of the options they gave you and the membership card thing and all of this extra stuff that they gave and upsells that you had to skip past. It was crazy. And they were rumoured to have a dropout rate in the high 90% of people that got to that website and didn't buy. It has obviously been completely redone now, so you can't see how bad that is. But believe me, there are big companies making these mistakes left, right and centre. So there's chances are that there are areas for improvement for you too. And finally, is all the data you're asking for essential? So do we need to ask for addresses twice if it's shipping and billing? No, probably not. We probably only need one address. Can we speed that up with postcode lookup, for example, and reduce things to a single click rather than clicking in multiple boxes and entering data over and over again? Can we even pull information in from PayPal or Apple Pay or Google Pay? Are we asking for email addresses and 2 lots of phone numbers where we only need one, for example? So think about that data and say, do I need it? And the most important stage is testing the website. Now, I would suggest there are 2 ways to do this, and I know which one is my preference. One is to do it yourself. The other one is to get someone else to do it and watch it without chipping in and without helping them. Getting someone to do it and watch them will show you exactly how someone navigates that website, and it will not be how you expect them to navigate the website. Firstly, they might not understand your terminology and what you're using. They won't understand where things sit on the website. They potentially have never used that website before. They are likely to get confused. So don't take it as a criticism, take it as an opportunity to improve certain areas. If you can get a few people do it, because everyone will interact in different ways, and then start changing the way you interact with your own website and thinking about it from a consumer point of view. So can you simplify it? Can you reduce those clicks? Can you reduce that data entry? And that's the summary, really. So test that website, Has it got the right information? Is it getting people through that funnel? How many clicks is it taking at the moment? Can we reduce them? And can we reduce that data entry? I think finally, just one last little plug for Visisoft, if I'm allowed while I'm here. So we obviously do help businesses with this. Obviously, we do provide the online ticketing platform. I think some of my colleagues are here today if people have got specific product questions. But it's a fixed pricing route. It's a no commission route. So our approach is always, how do we get people to sell? We don't take money off them every time they sell a ticket. It's a banded pricing system. So our goal with all of our customers is how do you get to sell more tickets, and how do you kind of maximize that conversion rate and get more people through the door. So hopefully that gives me information, I suppose. Any questions?
Phil, quick question from me. Thank you for that. I'm sure everyone will be testing their clicks as soon as they can. You mentioned dropout rates. Now, I think most people are fairly au fait with that at the moment, but is that, and like you, I wouldn't know actually in our industry what our percentage is and what it might compare to. So is it easy for people to find out their dropout rates and trust them to be accurate?
It's easy if you're working with someone an agency. So it's asking an agency the question. So I'm sure you've probably heard of Google Analytics. Google Analytics will manage funnels. It will manage dropouts at different stages of those funnels. So you can set that up to say how many people are dropping out when they've hit, for example, one of your shopping cart pages, and get a percentage. It's not easy. Like I said, I've worked in marketing for 15, 20 years. I probably wouldn't set it up myself. I'd probably get an agency to do that for me if that did. But once it's set up, it's a simple statistic to come through, to be honest. Chances are, even if you're doing well, you'll have a 60-65% dropout on your website. So it's not a case of getting it from 80 down to 0. It's a case of doing better than what it is, really. But yeah, you're absolutely right, Paul. Understanding it in the first place is a really nice step to have.
Okay, if anybody wants to chuck in a question, I'm happy to take one. I have one more. Sorry, was that somebody? No, yeah, just on discount, you mentioned coupon codes, and we would sort of quote that probably in the last 2 years, we've reduced discounts across the industry quite significantly. Yeah. You know, and from the old days of getting it off the cornflakes packet and out of the newspaper, things have changed. But I suspect, as you probably will, that some form of discounting will come back into the industry over a period of time. I suppose the question would, will that add a layer of difficulty onto what you've suggested today, or should it just seamlessly fit into that? Yeah,
so I think we've seen exactly the same. As far as I'm aware, unless any of my colleagues know anything different, I think all of our customers have stopped discounting at the moment. I don't think anyone's doing it. So all of the lovely development work that our developers have done to manage all those complicated discounts is completely wasted at the moment. But like you say, it probably will come back. I think the key is, if you're going to do it, then don't hide it in some respects. I mean, if you're going to do it, make sure that the journey works for that customer. So you can do it a couple of ways. You can have custom URLs that will automatically apply that discount, for example. So if you don't want to shout about it to the world, rather than giving someone a code and having a blank code, because we all know what discount codes do on checkout phases. If you haven't got one, it makes you go on Google and search for a discount code for X, Y, and Z of wherever you are. And if you find one, you use it, so you benefit. So if you don't want that to happen, then there are ways of if you like, molding the journey so that that customer gets that discount code, a specific ticket effectively added to their basket with that price. If you're doing it on a more carte blanche, i.e. you are discounting 10% and you're shouting about it on your website and you just have to enter this code, make that code really obvious for people to enter, because it's another reason for them to drop out. So it just depends on how you're doing it, but the key is making it transparent and clear and simple for the customer.
Thanks, Phil. I think we've got a question from Andy. Okay, it's just in the chat. It's just asking a little bit. You touched on it, I think. How can you make putting video on a website easier and better?
Is there a specific problem you're having, Andy, with that, or is that just a general one of how to use it best?
Hello, I don't know whether you can hear me. Hopefully you can. On social, you find it easy, but embedding it into a website so that it's seamless, you don't get that sort of delay at the start. It always looks like it's kind of sort of patched in afterwards. So social, I'm talking about for like web page?
So there's two schools of thought when it comes to putting website on video. One is use YouTube because it's YouTube and Google own YouTube, and if you're trying to impress Google, then that's the way to go. Which I would say for our industry in an IT software world where we've got to be quite competitive in the search rankings, it's quite important. For you guys who are not necessarily going to be in that same space, there's two other options. One is self-hosted. So there is pieces of software that you can put on your server where you can serve the video straight from there. It's a conversation with your agency to have. The other one is Vimeo. So they do embed codes the same as YouTube. In my experience, always faster. Always faster. There's less users and more power, and that's kind of their selling point against YouTube. So I imagine it's YouTube you're having a problem with. So I'm making that assumption there, Andy, because YouTube is a nightmare. So those would be my two suggestions. One, try a different provider like Vimeo, which is fast. If you're having problems for a different reason, then self-hosted, it's being very easy. You have to spend 200, 300 quid on a piece of software to go on your website, and then effectively it runs the video straight through your website, so it's as fast as it can be.
Okay, thanks to Andy. Thanks, Phil. We'll finish things off now, Phil. Thank you very much for that this morning. We will circulate your contact details and VisiSofts to everyone who's attended today. And for those attending, please look out for our next webinar on the 9th of February. Have a good Wednesday, everybody. Lovely to see you all, and see you all soon. Thank you very much. Thank you.